Welcome back to Brown Thumbs Turn Green. Today I have a really special treat for you. You've gotten to hear a lot about my feelings and appreciation for gardening and where those came from. But today you actually get to meet literally where and who I came from.
I'm Eddie Andrews, Kimberly's mother.
And I'm Bill Andrews, her proud dad.
And we are taking some time to come together. We haven't been together since February, and we've all been in isolation, and we are celebrating their 50th anniversary. So we also have been, as part of our celebration, since we continue to be careful, every single day we've been eating out of the house, and we've been able to eat out of things that they grew in their garden. So, Mom, what is your favorite thing about gardening?
Well, I love being outside and just watching the plants grow. And the real treat is when you get to eat them. Like this week we've had tomatoes and basil and oregano and Japanese squash out of our garden. And there's just something very satisfying about doing that. Plus, you know where that food came from and what's been put on it.
We've gotten to eat all of that. She has the best tomato pie ever.
I would ditto that, but I also enjoy just getting out, getting my hands dirty, and having successful battles with the deer. That's a really special thing too. Just not so special when they get in and start eating their plants, but when you actually find something that foils them, that's pretty satisfying.
You get to win.
We win.
The plants can fight back too.
That's right.
Well, next we're going to go down to the garden, and we're going to see some of their beautiful vegetables. And we're also going to meet what is essentially another member of our family, a green vegetable container that they got in their first year of marriage. And that means that I have been eating out of this vegetable container, eating vegetables that they grew and that they collected for all 42 years of my life. So that's pretty cool.
We come from a background of farmers on both of our sides and rural communities, and so we've always had a garden. Normally we have more land than we have here at Edisto Beach. Here we just have a small plot. But Bill made us some raised beds, and we've been very successful. We do have some challenges. We have deer here, and so we've had to actually put up an electric fence to keep the deer out. They got through a couple of weeks ago and really did some damage to our garden, but we've been able to have some success with our tomatoes, and we've got Japanese eggplant, we have basil, we have oregano, and we've got some other things going, and we did have to do some planting, but we also have a compost pile, and we collect our water in rain barrels and use that for watering.
And we have some mint too, which are excellent for mojitos.
Fantastic. I think I'll need a demo on those mojitos just to test it out. Well, I love everything that you're doing, not only to sustain your own practice, but in ways that we can recycle materials for earth, and also putting in things like the deer protection so that you can practically have a garden while not putting more than a zap on our fellow cohabitants. So have you ever had to test it just to make sure that the fence was operational?
Yeah, inadvertently I checked it, and it is really working.
And as we've discussed before, gardening is tough and it's sacrificial, folks, so it's very worth it. And I want you to notice this green gardening vegetable collector that my mom has, because I remember being a little kid and being out with my mom and her collecting food that she and my dad grew to feed me, and she's still doing that now at 42 years of age. So thank you so much for being great parents, great gardeners, and thank you to the green bin who's still looking great after all these decades.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Love y'all. Greetings, friends, and welcome back to Brown Thumbs Turn Green. I'm Kimberly Andrews, and I'm back in Georgia at my own garden after a wonderful visit to my parents. And my garden has continued trucking along. It's July now, and we had a lot more rain in June. And then naturally with July has come 100-degree temperatures. So the garden has slowed down, but it is still fruiting, and I've been able to harvest tomatoes multiple times, and I was even able to feed my parents some tomatoes, which was the big part of my challenge, was to give back to them. I also have my particular tomato variety is Rose Hill plum tomatoes. So these are smaller plum tomatoes, and you can see behind me they have indeterminate growth, and they're two types of tomato plants: those that have indeterminate growth, which means they continue growing, and those that have determinate growth, which reach your more characteristic size of a couple feet. So as these have continued to grow, I have just trained them to go over my fence, using that as a trellis. Since I am working with shaded conditions, it's the upper part of the plant that has been producing the fruit, which would have made it disadvantageous for me to trim the tops. So I've been able to get multiple harvests. A lot of things have either slowed down or died off just because of the heat. So I'm really excited about what I may be able to do in the fall when I can start planting earlier, and where I can have greater yield during that time of year that is optimal for this part of the world where we have cooler growing conditions. My eggplant's still moving along, my spinach and my sweet potatoes, and I did transplant some herbs, some oregano and mint and basil for my parents, although the basil that I've been growing in companion with my tomatoes is continuing to move along as well. It's pretty leggy because it needed to get up there, but I'll start working with on those. You do want to trim the top, and then that'll help them bush out. So continuing to move along, slower and hot, but I've always been more of a tortoise than a hare anyway. You take care, and we'll look forward to seeing you again. Thanks.